What's up, Arc Junkies? I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving for those of you that celebrate the holiday and that you got some rest and were able to spend time with family and friends. Welcome to show number 253. Today's guest is Danny Keiderling, a rig welder out of the Wyoming area. I first got introduced to Danny via Instagram and TikTok. He does some great how-to videos and has some handy tips and tricks when it comes to welding. And he's always got a super positive message, and he genuinely cares about the skilled trade of welding. Danny was recently involved in an accident and it has left him as a quadriplegic. But Danny didn't let that stop him. He's now trying to teach himself to weld once again and make a full recovery. He's already made significant progress with his physical therapy. Throughout his injury and his therapy, Danny's kept a positive attitude and continues to push himself a little more each day. He's one hell of an inspiration to many, and I wanted to get him on the show to share his story and motivation with y'all. We'll get right into his story right after a quick word from the supporters of the show. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Outlaw Leather. Need a custom welding hood, armband, bolt bag, rod pouch, scabbard holder, or any other custom leather work done? Then hit up my friends over at Outlaw Leather. I've been a customer of Outlaw since 2016, and over the years I've become friends with the folks that run the business. They're hardworking and dedicated to quality in everything that they do. Outlaw makes the coolest custom hoods in the game. I've literally seen them take a sketch from a napkin and turn it into a custom leather hood. So if you're looking to get custom work done, send an email to info@outlawleatherllc.com. You can also shop their website and get 15% off all their in-stock handmade leather goods when you use Arc Junkies in the discount box at checkout. They have multiple designs and types to choose from. They also carry everything you need as a welder, like gloves, fit-up tools, and more. And if you're in the Pasadena, Texas area, you can visit their showroom and see everything in person. We're also brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. They make the rods and wires you need for the most difficult repairs in the most undesirable conditions. These are the conditions maintenance welders have to deal with on a daily basis. The equipment is typically covered in mud, dirt, oil, paint, and all kinds of other stuff that makes standard electrodes ineffective to make a long-lasting repair. Rockmount rods are different. They excel in this type of area. At first, I thought Rockmount rods were snake oil until I tried them for myself. I painted up some plates, covered them with sand and cutting fluid, and welded right over it with no porosity, no undercut, no cold lap, and achieved great penetration at lower amps than an equivalent diameter 6010 or 7018. Rockmount rods are legit, and they boast a higher percentage of elongation and a higher tensile strength than rods and wires meant for initial fabrication. Rockmount makes rods and wires for every situation: cast, low alloy, stainless, dissimilar alloys, and more. Check out their full line of products at rockmountwelding.com. And while you're there, take a look at their abrasives, blades, bits, and burrs. And you can save 10% off when you use Arc Junkies 10 in the discount box at checkout. Get the job done right the first time, every time with Rockmount. Alright, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, Danny, man, how you been lately?
Good, man. Just hanging in there, doing the best I can with what I got, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. I got to tell you, you're like a huge source of inspiration and motivation. I've told you that a couple times on, some of the stuff that you posted recently on Instagram. Just your spirit and attitude and mentality and fortitude. It's fucking awesome.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, I hear it a lot. A lot of people say it, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I don't know. It's just easier to go through life happy than it is to be angry. You know what I mean? I think I've pretty much just, that's just how I am, and I don't, ain't gonna let much get me down, I suppose, like Joe Dirt said, you know what I mean? I'm just gonna keep on keeping on, get it, so yeah. I appreciated it. I've been hearing that a lot lately. So that's why I keep on making my posts, I guess, because people keep praising me. It feels good. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you never stopped being you, and like you had a hell of a like life, like transformational freaking life event happen to you, and you never stopped being you.
Yeah. It's I don't know if I could really. I don't know. It's just I don't really even have a secret sauce for it. I just I'm always gonna be Danny Keiderling best way I can, at least, and that's I'm glad that I finally believe that too. You know what I mean? At first you have your doubts because you're not the old guy, physically that you think you were, or whatever. You start thinking, twice about stuff. And, at first you're like, oh, when you're injured, people are like, oh, it's, you know what I mean? You're so good at this, or, they try to brighten your spirits. But after about the millionth time of someone telling me that, it's finally set in, and I believed it for once.
Oh, you definitely got to believe it, man. I mean, it's pure too. I mean, it's not like some front. You're not putting on a show or anything. I mean, it was. I watched your whole. From the time that I heard about your accident, and then your wife broadcasting stuff from the hospital, keeping everybody up to date, and then like you rolling around the hospital and going through physical therapy, and now you're at home, and like you got a TIG torch in your hand with within just a few weeks of getting home from the hospital.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. It was the whole journey. I mean, it's not over by any means, but it's pretty crazy, all the things. At first, I didn't even want to post anything. I was kind of like I was a little bit ashamed of myself, or a little bit ashamed of, my situation, and but I had to, I was getting messages. There was Google said that I died in a welding accident, like legitly, and people were like worried about me, and so I was like, man, I gotta post something, and then that's when the DMs started coming in, like I try to give people a little update, basically, let them know what was going on, and it kind of took off like wildfire. People were just like, they wanted to know, and I was like, man, I know how this goes. I was like, I gotta let them know legitly. I don't care about the likes and the follows and all that bullshit, but I was like, I gotta let people know if they're legitly worried about me, or legitly care for me. I gotta help them, at least give them some type of update. And it's been pretty cool along the way. I've got a lot of cool friends here locally that I never knew were in wheelchairs here around Wyoming. And on top of that, I got a lot of, tons of followers that are, handicapped, depressed, whatever, that it seems like I've touched them in some way. And it's been pretty powerful.
Yeah, there was one dude that reached out to me via email and was like, hey, can you get me in contact with Danny? And I forwarded his information, but he's I guess a paraplegic welder as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he's a paraplegic. I think I talked to him a few times. There's been so many. I apologize. Yeah. And I try to keep up with everyone that, so a paraplegic, little fact for anyone out there that's curious. So if he's a paraplegic, which there's a lot of them, and all of it sucks. But so if you guys notice, I can't use my hands. They move, but it's my wrists. So the difference there is my tendons flex, and I can kind of grab something. People kind of see it in my videos and be like, why are your hands not working right? Well, they don't, my fingers don't work right. A paraplegic is a level where your hands work fully. I'm actually a quadriplegic. That means I think that if you actually go back to like the nitty gritty of the definition, but basically all four of your limbs don't work properly. I think I was talking to him actually just the other day. There's been a few, and they're amazing, man. They it's crazy. Just I don't even think of myself anything special compared to some of these guys that have been doing this, dealing with this, being paralyzed or anything like that. They're freaking animals, man. They're crawling up into their trucks, you know what I mean? They're in their shops, welding. It's pretty cool what they're doing, and I'm over here just like trying to open up a Ziploc container for lunch, and but they're pretty amazing, some of them guys out there with the, they adapt and overcome,
Yeah. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Now, like going back, when it happened, it seemed like it was super surreal. Like I got a DM that you'd been injured, and I was like, what the no? Like he was just on like posting shit the other day. He was fine. Like, what the hell happened? Like, I thought you were like going off to it was your bachelor party, right?
Yeah, yep, it was my bachelor party. We were literally probably 3 or 4 hours into my bachelor party, man, and we just we're going down a county road. I had a Can-Am X3. It's a 4-seater freaking UTV, and we were just going down a county road, and they had just fixed some gravel, and we were going around the corner, and my buddy, I was in the back of the Can-Am, back passenger side of the Can-Am, and my buddy was driving, and he just turned, and he couldn't turn. You know how like when you're in snow and sometimes you turn and nothing happens. That's kind of how that gravel is on them freshly graded roads, and he just turned, and we were up in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and came up to that turn and went off the edge of that a mountain basically, and rolled down it 6 or 7 times, and I actually broke. I know a lot of people don't believe it, or people are like kind of dumbfounded, but my seatbelt malfunctioned, and I actually got ejected out of the dang thing, and everyone in the front, the 2 passengers in the front of the ATV were fine, but the guys in the back got freaking kind of jarred up. My one buddy, he had some, he wasn't terrible, but he had some bruised ribs and stitches and stuff like that. And I got the worst of the deal, and got ejected. And yeah, so I broke my neck actually.
Jeez.
My C6, C7 in my neck. So.
Damn. Now, are you gonna? Just because I see you doing like a lot of like rehabilitation and stuff like that, are you going to be able to gain function in your extremities again, or is it going to improve?
Yeah, so that's like my biggest question, and I need to do a video on it or something in the future, because spinal cords are like kind of like I don't know, computer programming. It's even more than that. Spinal cords and brain injuries, that's like the 2 most complicated parts of your body. They literally don't know anything about it versus recovery. I do believe I'm going to recover. I've got some stuff firing and some tingling and some amazing stuff happening. But unfortunately, they can't give you like an educated guess from a doctor or anything like that, because it's just such a, I mean, in 100 years, I bet you will figure it out. But I mean, in your spinal cord, man, there's, and nobody out there in this podcast, don't be fact checking me too hard, because I'm still just a dumb welder. But I've tried to educate myself along the way on spinal cord injury. And inside your spinal cord, there's literally millions and millions of nerves that go through there, and them nerves run the feeling, and they also run your muscle movement and muscles, and there's millions in there. And when you damage that, you can it's just like a wiring harness. Depending on the severity of the damage, your wiring harness can still kind of work, like in a car, your main harness or whatever. That's the best way I can explain it, from your computer all the way down to your tail lights, the back, the very end of your car. That spot, that starts up at the front of the vehicle usually, and that's the best way I can explain it. And it's hard to get like a definite answer. There is some hope for me, thank God. I was actually a incomplete injury. So when you're classified, or when they start doing C scans on your wherever your injury level is, because I mean you can get paralyzed from literally the top of your skull, like literally at your C1, which is right at the base of your skull, all the way down to your tailbone. And I was obviously a C6 injury, C6 and C7. The injury area was a C6. That's why I don't have my finger movement. But I was an incomplete. So an incomplete means that my spinal cord was not like severely damaged, to where a complete injury would be where it was completely damaged. So I wasn't as severe as some of these guys get, where like it's just completely severed. There's when that happens, when you're a complete injury, it's not bleak because, I mean, life goes on, you know what I mean? At least you're alive. But it is bleak for the recovery side of things, where guys, because if it's completely damaged, you're not gonna, you know, your recovery percentages are going to be a lot lower. Mine, my percentage, I actually, I was obviously incomplete. So, bam, I had a little bit going for me there. And, there's a whole other way to test out, from Asia levels, Asia level A through E, just to give you guys a little, I don't know, doctor's lesson here. Asia level A is basically the worst, and Asia level E is the best. Asia level E is like a fully recovered spinal cord injury, which is what I hope to be soon. I came into this accident to Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, literally 2 weeks to the day from my accident, and I tested in it at Asia level B, which is, I mean, better than an A, but you're like, dang, you know what I mean? They're like, yeah, it's, so basically I could, I had feeling, so my injury's in my neck, but I had feeling below my, neck level. I had it right above, right around chest level. I have like, that's where my injury is at, where my feelings changes. But I had sensation below my injury level. Long story short, I was, actually in the hospital at Craig for 45 days, and I actually progressed from a Asia level B to a Asia level C, which is really, really good. A 12% chance actually to go from a B to C is what they said. And and like I said this at my benefit dinner, and I owe that to just believing, just thinking in my head and believing that I can do that. I progressed, 12% chance of progression. I went from an Asia level B to an Asia level C. And I'm grateful for that. And that's kind of a very basic rundown of, spinal cord injuries and my spinal cord injury that happened. So,
yeah, no. And I would imagine that, like, you being at home welding, I mean, that's just like, obviously, like I've said it before 100 times on the show, welding's therapeutic in general. Like, you flip your hood down and everything goes away. But I mean, just getting getting that TIG torch back in your hand and, like, just kind of you're almost teaching yourself over again. That's got to be like very therapeutic mentally and, physically, because you're like working your hands. You're trying to get that muscle memory and that motion back. And then it probably, I would imagine it takes everything else and just throws it out the window, and it's just you and the arc again.
Yeah. Oh, dude, just as much as me, welding is literally besides my child and my wife, it's the best thing in the world that was ever part of my life. And it's mentally saved me when I've been a mental guy. I've always been pushed through the hard times and enjoy the good and enjoy the bad. And but you know what I mean? If you guys might have watched some of my first videos when I got home, I was working on a welding bed, and it was just MIG weld, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's where a guy starts, and I was working on my buddy's welding bed, his welding truck with him. And if you actually watch that video, I wasn't crying, but you could kind of see me tearing up. It was all real video. First weld I ever had done true weld since the accident, and it was freaking amazing, man. And every time I've been down to the shop a few times in the winter out here in Wyoming. I mean, we got about 4 to 6 inches of snow. I got stuck the other day in my wheelchair going down to my shop. But it was every time I come back up from my shop, because it's about an 1/8 mile down a hill from my house. Every time I come up, and that night, it's something about my body. I did it last weekend. I actually had that. You were saying that I had that TIG torch in my hand. And I designed I didn't design it. I rednecked a little handle on there and shoved my hand on there, and I was actually impressed with, I was like, man, I can't believe I actually had a straight weld there. But later on that night, it was, I had feeling coming back in my hands, like a weird feeling, which is good because any feeling's a good feeling right now. And I had 4 of my fingers start twitching. Like they were just twitching so much that it would like annoy me. And it was like kind of like annoying. And I started thinking about it literally today. I was like, that's a right there welding. And everyone thinks that I oversell welding, or that it's that my love for welding's fake or whatever. It's that literally that welding. There's something about it for me, and it's just excites my nerves right there.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, you can't even deny it, because it happens every time I go down to that shop and weld. And I plan on, dude, every time my buddies come out, I'm freaking like smiling, sitting at the door like a dog when you come home from work, just ready to go down there and weld. It's awesome. Welding's great.
I think there's two types of welders that are out there. There's those that they do it for like a profession, like this is my job, this is what I do, this is how I put food on the table, and then like take it or leave it. This is just like how I make ends meet. And then there's the people that are out there that are like, I don't care if I'm freaking broke. Like, I'm going to weld because I love it. I enjoy waking up every day and like going to build cool shit and leaving my mark on this world, or, taking a pile of scrap metal and like building a beautiful piece of art, or, going out to the line and like laying down freaking pipes so that everybody's got, gas and utilities and everything that they need. And I'm a part of that. And I think that shit's cool. Or, just teaching, passing that education on. Like, I get fired up about welding. I love welding. And the fun, like, I didn't love welding when I started learning how to weld. I was like, yeah, I'll take the class. It's an easy A. And like, the further I tried to get away from welding, the more it kept drawing me back in, the more opportunities. And it's like, this is a pretty cool fucking trade, and I love everything about it. I love the people about it. Especially like I've said it ad nauseum, like the folks on Instagram, they're just great freaking people. That whole welding community, that's my tribe. Those are my people, and they get it. They're weld nerds too. And like the folks that listen to the podcast, they're all a bunch of weld nerds, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's cool to be passionate about your craft.
Yep. Yeah. It's shout out. Speaking of that, shout out to the welding community out there. I don't financially, it's hard to go through this, and I've always been very frugal, but shout out to the welding community, and because I wouldn't exactly be, in the greatest standings that I am right now if it wasn't for my welding community, with the financial support, with my GoFundMe, my fundraiser that we had locally here in Wyoming, and just literally just the thousands of people, sometimes millions of people commenting in the welding community. Like, little shout out to them, because like it's freaking insane. And it's I was telling like everyone, they're like kind of like they want to, they're curious about how social media works or whatever. When I was in the hospital, I had, a few nurses and stuff that were very interested in, they're like, oh, they go, you're TikTok famous. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not TikTok famous or whatever. But you know what I mean? It really is the welding community is freaking amazing. Every single one of us is because we're real. We're not fake. You know what I mean? Like the followers that we have, or the friends that we have in this community are real, you know what I mean? They're not just some creepy old man, you know what I mean, getting pictures of feet online, you know what I mean? Like they're real people, and they're so supportive and awesome. And so like shout out to literally every single one of like this Art Junkies podcast, Instagram, all the way down to Twitter and stuff like that. These freaking welding communities are freaking awesome, and like I just want to shout out to them, because they helped me get through this, even though they think I'm helping them, they really help me,
Yeah, I would imagine it's kind of like the new age, like get well cards, like now. Yeah. I could send it to you in real time.
Yeah. Yep. Send you them amazing freaking Instagram messages and Facebook messages, 2 miles long. You know what I mean? I read everything like that twice over, and it feels good. You know what I mean? It's they're freaking awesome people. They're real awesome people. Yeah. Back to your, I was going to add one thing there are two types of welders out there. Like you said, and I think it's the same as what I think too. I think there's people that love welding, and was telling my wife this the other day, because a lot of people are like, how will you ever get back into welding? I said, I ain't leaving it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Got out.
Yeah, and I'm like, there are two people. There's people that love it, and there's two people that do it for money. Mm-hmm. And I've loved it. I've always told people that I need to put it on a hat, but I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know what I mean? I love welding. There's nothing, you know what I mean? I love it so much that I know if I keep pursuing it, I will get better at it. And like I've always tell, like my students, people coming up in the industry, I tell them, if you truly love this, the money will come later. Get good at what you're doing. And if you truly love this, welding, you're gonna freaking go miles ahead of everyone else, because there literally is two people. It's the people that love it, and there's people that just do it for money.
Yeah, and I mean, I can tell from just the videos you do, and like we haven't like met physically in person, but I mean, like you were on the show about a year ago, but like just watching all your other videos, like all the little tricks that you're throwing out to people, like, hey, do this, or avoid this, or don't pay attention to that, like look into this, like even like you were doing math demos. I commented on a couple of your videos with the math, like, hey, welders have to do math, like it's sorry to break the news to you, but I mean, like, you make it fun and relevant. And like when you were building your I think it was like a staircase in your house, all the handrail and the rails, I think the baby was on the way and everything, so you needed to put up some guards and stuff like that, and little swing gate and everything. You were kind of like doing little demos, like here's the progress. And I thought that was like really cool to see the whole progression of everything that you were doing, and all the little tips and tricks that you were dropping along the way, and how you were like genuinely excited to be building something and showing other people how to do it. Yeah, I'm a nerd, just like you said earlier. I couldn't do life without welding. I was in the hospital, and they're like, oh, what do you want us to bring? You know what I mean? Some food, and I was like, bring me some Mountain Dew, man. And I'm like, also, I was like, go down to my shop and bring my TIG torch. Bring it down here to Colorado, because I was like, I can't. I was like, I'm losing my mind. Not, like almost, for real, I'm losing your mind. But it's just something about welding. It's just, I can't do it. I can't not do it. You know. How long have you been welding? So I was just looking at that the other day. I think I started my professional career in 2011, so just over 10 years now. So really, honestly, for welders, not that long. And I'm proud and ashamed, not ashamed, but proud of that, and ashamed at the same time, because there's something, I don't know, I retain information better than some people, or expel it better than others, because I don't know what it is, but everything about welding is just, it seems like I get it a little better, or I love it a lot more than a lot of people. And I've only been doing it 10 years, it's pretty wild, It's the passion behind it. I mean, if you're passionate about what you're doing, what you're learning, you're going to focus on that. You're going to eat, sleep, and breathe it. That's my problem. Like I said, when I first learned back in high school, like I didn't take it serious. It wasn't, I mean, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was cool that I could, go in and play with fire, and, but it was, I didn't realize the potential that was there. Like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it wasn't around, so I couldn't see the potential. And like my welding instructor really couldn't get me fired up about it. Like, no pun intended. But she showed me, and he set me on like a good path. And like, I got down, and I started doing it, and I fell in love with it. And it's like, right when I got out of the military and started learning, what the possibilities are, I think that's when I started to, and that was probably around 2005, 2006, I started realizing, man, this skill set that I currently possess has a lot of potential. And then you just start building on that. And like you said, like somebody'd show me something and I'd pick it up. Like, hey, can you show me how to lay out an I-beam for, a structural building? Boom, I got it. You pick up on it really quick because you're passionate about it. And then next thing you know, you're volunteering to stay late or, work on the weekends. You're like, oh, pick me, coach, put me in. Like, I want to work. I want to do this stuff. I want to be out here. I want to learn. And everybody else is like, kiss ass. And no, I genuinely enjoy doing this shit. Like, let me do some more of it. This is how I want to support myself later on in life, Yeah. 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 So did you start off in the pipeline world? So yeah, I was just talking to someone the other day about this. One of my good friends. I was very fortunate to break out literally in high school. I wouldn't even call it breaking out, because all I did was beg them for a job for about
a year straight, and they finally hired me on. And I actually started out in a pipe fab shop. We built piping and high pressure code stamp vessels. And it sounds a lot more illustrious than it is, but when you start out in one of them, I mean, you're literally, all I did for hours on end was cutting and prepping pipe and material and plate for the big, pressure vessels and piping that we're making. But there was at the job, or at the company I worked for, there was he had about 15 welding trucks, and I see these welding trucks, you know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, that's sick. I'm like, I didn't even know you could weld on it. I didn't know they had engine driven welding machines. And I'm like, I'm a boy. I'm a child at heart. And I'm like, I love trucks and I love welding. I'm like, dude, and I'm like, I want to be that guy. So I progressed in that shop, from code welding all the way up. And then one weekend they had an emergency wellhead they needed welded on, and no one would answer their phone except me. And they gave me the opportunity to go out and weld on a wellhead for an oil well. And I struggled a little bit, but I did it. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour for them oil rigs to sit and idle. And I did it. And dude, I literally, I still even have the picture. I was smiling ear to ear on the way home, you know what I mean? Covered in mud, grease, all kinds of stuff. And, freaking 70-18 overhead, you know what I mean? You got freaking spatter because you don't know nothing about rod angle and travel speed when you're 18 years old, 19 years old. And and I had holes in my arm, but it was, I was, you know what I mean? It was the most amazing thing I'd done in my life at that point. And it was awesome. It was so rewarding, and I made a lot of money too, because it was a Sunday, I think.
And nobody else would answer the phone, so the price starts going up every call they make. Yep.
So that's how I got my start. And I actually worked at that company for 6.5 years. And then I actually broke out as a contractor, contract weld, and all the way, in the Rocky Mountain area, Montana, Colorado, the Dakotas, Nebraska, stuff like that. Started doing that, and it was, it was the best money in my life, and the happiest I ever been was I was, in the field welding, mainly pipe. I welded, I know you guys, a lot of people, and it's all fun and games, I kind of mess with, welders are very, very emotional people. They're competitive. I know I make fun of structural welders or what have you. I welded tons. I welded tons of structural welding too, and I love it all. My biggest thing is and I still suffer from it today, is I got to be outside, man. I got to be outside and enjoying that weather, even if it's 30 below out.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like a badge of honor, regardless of what industry or sector you're in when it comes to welding. It seems to always boil down to like pipe welders and iron workers, or the pipe fitters guys, and then like the iron workers, and they both realize that they couldn't do what they do without the others. Yep. Like, pipe fitter, like if the structural guys don't show up, they've got nothing to hang that pipe from. And if the pipe doesn't need to get hung, the structural guys don't need to be there. So, I mean, it's cool because I've got a couple buddies that, they're from the pipe fitters union and stuff. So we always give each other shit about, iron workers are better. No, pipe welders are better. But at the end of the day, we all respect each other's craft. And I've had a lot of pipe welders. They're like, man, I don't know how you guys do that structural stuff. It's hard. Like, they can't run like flux core. They're like, what do you mean you run uphill? You're supposed to run everything downhill. No. I mean, like, you do things different, and it's really cool. And I got a lot of respect for people that can, weld in circles all day. I mean, there's a talent to it, especially you see some of these guys out there and it's like, damn, it looks like somebody put an orbital TIG welder on there and just, laced it in. And it's like, no, that's freehand and talent and drive and motivation. And I respect the hell out of people that can do that.
Yep. Or guys that can walk beams freaking 100 foot up in the air, doing crazy stuff with a spud wrench and a freaking inner shield gun, There's nothing like that view, man. That's the one thing I really miss about doing structural ironwork is you get up there, you're like standing on top of a beam at, 7:00 in the morning, before everybody's like, the world is just starting to wake up and move, and you're already at work. You're watching the sunrise, and it's freaking beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. That's one thing I can say I haven't really done, like skyscraper, or what have you, where you're in like a rural, or not rural, but, like a city or what have you. That would be pretty cool. But I can feel you there though, because I've been up in, man lifts, on oil rigs to station work, you know what I mean? Towers, vessel towers and stuff, and gas plants. And yeah, you're like, oh man, I got to get a picture of this. You know what I mean? No one's going to believe this,
Yeah.
And then you get paid for it too, man. It's
yeah, that's the cherry on top.
World,
and that's what sucks is like when I was out there doing all that stuff, like I probably got a bunch of photos somewhere that I just don't have access to because I never developed the film on a disposable camera. And now like everybody's got like this cool technology in their pocket where they can whip out their phone and take like high quality, high def photos of everything that they're doing. And it's like, damn, I wish I would have had that when I was like in the field, like doing, some of the crazy, shit that we were up to, all the different buildings and stuff.
I feel you there. Yeah. It's crazy. I was gonna say the technology these days. Cause, I fired up an old phone I had years ago, just like you're saying, and I'm like, golly, look at this. You know what I mean? You can't even, I'm like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And that was only, that phone was only, 4 or 5 years old, and you know what I mean? And you're like, it's crazy, the technology too, you know what I mean? That we're blessed with, blessing and a curse, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I thought my Motorola Razr took some badass photos back in the early 2000s, but it ain't got shit on an iPhone, iPhone 1.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool, man.
So what was your like favorite type of work when you were out there doing all that stuff? I know you talked about doing like working in the oil field and like doing pipeline and everything, doing all kinds of different stuff. Like what was your, like if you had your option, because I mean, obviously you've got to follow the work. You got to follow where the money's at. And with pipeline, it's up and down. And with a lot of petrochemical stuff, it's always up and down, hit or miss, feast or famine, make hay while the sun's shining. But like if you had your druthers and you could say, hey, you know what? This is what I want to do day in and day out every single day. What sector would you be at? What would you be doing?
Yeah, actually, contrary to public belief, is pipeline super boring. It's fun. You work really hard. I actually not one of my top 10. It's probably in my top 10. But honestly, fabrication. I love piping fabrication. It's actually even more of a rarity for guys than pipeline or what have you. Honestly, if I could fabricate stainless steel piping all day off the back of a welding truck, that was my happy place. I just something about a TIG torch, soothing, there's not a lot of noises, and I liked, I guess I like being unique, you know what I mean? I really like, that's my thing about everything is like, how do I make this unique? And maybe that's why people like the way I come across. But I always like TIG welding because it's unique. Not everyone can do it, especially, you're doing, if you're, and then if you're fabricating, piping, in plants and compressor stations, stuff like that, even saltwater. It's so cool because it's unique, you know what I mean? Not a lot of guys can fabricate, and then maybe say, 50% of the guys, if you're of a welders, can fabricate. And then, 10% of them guys can TIG weld. And so I always thought that was unique, a challenge. And it was just something freaking, it was sick, man. You know what I mean? Like you said, back in the day that, I didn't even, freaking see, arc shots, all this crazy stuff that people can get post on the internet now. None of that stuff was there. I didn't even know there was how-to videos on YouTube until a few years ago. So it was something, that arc out of that TIG torch and back feed and pressure feed and all that stuff. It just was soothing. And shoot, my day was just a blast because of that. So I would definitely say, TIG welding, even though I'm quite a big fan of downhill also, but I think I was just naturally good at downhill. A lot of guys are like, oh, just like, oh, it's downhill, it's easy. It's not easy if you do it right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's actually, you can struggle with that too. So
there's definitely an art to it.
Downhill TIG welding,
Yeah, there's definitely in like a lot of people throw shade because, oh, it's downhill, you just drag it that way. But like I watched them boys down in Texas do it. Like Jacob Schofield came down to the guys at WeldTube, and like I was like, super stoked because like I've never seen, how they do, like I love learning new processes and seeing new things or new techniques and just watching like, Jacob and Hamar and Bob Moffett and all them, like just like watching them in their natural environment doing their thing. And I was like, this is completely, I'm just a dumb iron worker. This is completely new to me. And they're just, case in point, they're just dumb pipe fitters. I mean, we're all just dumb welders at the end of the day. I like saying that because it's definitely not true. We can get to that in a moment. But just watching, their finesse and their technique and how they do things and how they're, working with the different fit ups and closing in that gap and the technique that they had. Because you're not just dragging it downhill. I mean, they were doing like 60-10 downhill and then they'd follow it up with 80-10, which is like a completely different technique, and just like how they prep it and everything. Just seeing that, in person, it's cool to see the different facets of the industry and like learn new stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of people ask me, they're like, why do you like it so much? And what you're describing there to me, I have a little bit of a quirky artistic attitude kind of about life. And I think welding's a lot like art too, you know what I mean? Because you're like, man, you see this and because, Jake Schofield, you know what I mean? I know he's a phenomenal downhill guy. Like, you know what I mean? I know he's got a different technique versus this guy but it's like cool though because it's acceptable and no one can say it's wrong. And when you're done, you're gonna have a beautiful freaking, if you do it right, a beautiful piece of artwork, and it's yours. And no one can probably do it exactly like you do, but other people do it the same way. So it's almost like art because you have different, different ways of looking at it and grading it, but it's all the same in the end to get, whatever pipe in the ground or up in a rack or whatever. So I almost describe it as artwork to me because you can do different techniques, stuff like that. It's freaking awesome. You know what I mean? Everything about welding, like you guys know, I think is awesome, but that's art to me.
There's definitely an art to it. And I tell people that all the time, and you see it on the back of the t-shirts, like I've got the hands of a surgeon and the mind of a, whatever. And, this, that, and everything. And the hand, the mind of an artist or, whatever the case, it's on the back of a t-shirt, look it up. But like, it really is. It's an art form. I mean, the way that you have to maneuver and, the technique that you use and like not every weld is the same because not every fit up's the same. I mean, sometimes you gotta fight to get it in there. And sometimes it's just perfect and you can just, run it, just normal. But I mean, other times you got to work on your technique and the biggest thing is to learn how to read the puddle and then manipulate it to your will. That's the coolest part of it. Yep.
Yeah, you're not going to get anything right. If you don't understand that puddle, if you don't look at that puddle, anyone out there that's coming up in the industry, you know what I mean, or learning, you know what I mean, you got to, it's not the arc, you know what I mean? You don't, a lot of people just, it's like they don't look sometimes. It's like eventually you got to, figure out how to manipulate that puddle. The best way I always figured out how to manipulate that puddle is mess with it. Try to mess it up. Make it, make that puddle, ugly. Make it go crooked, and learn that if you move your elbow this way, that it's going to change your rod angle too, and it's going to change that puddle, you know what I mean? And it's that puddle is in the end your weld that you're getting, not the slag, not the arc, all that stuff. It's the puddle, and that puddle is going to give you it's going to give you your paycheck.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing for new welders to understand is because like, when I was teaching welding, I was like, you got to keep your eye on the puddle, watch the puddle. You see the puddle? And they're like, yeah, I see the puddle the whole time. We go through stick welding and like, they're saying they see the puddle. And I'm like, okay, cool. Just here's, keep doing this. And then we get into like MIG welding or TIG welding. And they're like, now I see the puddle. Well, shit, like you should have been staring at it, but so like as I got more and more into, like teaching welding and stuff like the fundamentals and, working with people, you get to, you start helping them identify that puddle a little bit faster. Cause like you said, I mean, they're looking at the arc, they're looking at the slag line and it's like, no, watch that puddle. The edges of your puddle, that's going to be the toes of your weld, so if you're not hitting this side of the plate with that puddle, the toes of your weld aren't going to be over there. So you've got to watch that puddle, learn to manipulate it, and you'll be just fine. But I think it's difficult for people that have never seen it before. And like the cool thing is Lincoln had like a great resource. They sent out like No Teacher Left Behind box, and it's got like a bunch of good books. So there's like the procedural handbook for welding, metals and how to weld them. But one of the coolest things they sent out was like this 6-pack of DVDs, and they had one on stick welding. and it was like the first time I'd ever seen a high definition shot of 70-18 vertical up. And so I could play that in the classroom and hit pause and say, okay, now that I have everybody's attention, this right here, this is the puddle. This is your slag line. This is the arc. This is the, the arc length. Like, you could point everything out, and then they're like, they get that eureka moment. And they're like, oh, and then like you could see like everybody's eyes lighten up, and it's like, all right, now let's get back out in the lab and do it again. And like, now we're cooking with gas.
And you've seen improvement because of that?
Yeah, 100%. Because like then they start to understand and realize like how critical arc length is, whether it's stick welding or TIG welding or contact tip to work distance with MIG welding, and especially like now that everybody's got access to high definition cameras. I mean, you've got WeldTube and Weld.com and Welding Tips and Tricks and like all these high definition arc shots. So the instructor, every process that you're getting ready to do, whether it's a lap joint, or a groove weld or a pipe weld or anything like that, somebody's done a video on it in high def, and you can see the arc shot. And you bring them into the classroom, you put it up on the big screen, like, this is what you need to be looking for. Hit play, boom. Okay, watch that for about 2 to 3 minutes. All right, let's get back out in the lab. Let's try it.
Yeah. That's really cool. That I guess I've never actually used that technique of teaching. I mean, I've used it to get people inspired and stuff, and I've done educational, but that would be pretty beneficial. One of my lead instructors, actually, when I was running a welding school, his name was Cole Barbacci was his name. He actually started doing that, and they still do it to this day. Just a little like in the safety meeting, you know what I mean? A little crazy little tip, and the little laser pointer and stuff. And at first, I'm like, I don't know about this, you know what I mean? And no, that's technology, man. That's freaking, you can't live without it, honestly. And the strides and stuff that technology's gone in the last 2 years. Honestly, it's been amazing. I
always thought it'd be cool because like the students can't see what you're seeing, and and then when it's their turn and you're right next to them, even though you get you're like 12 inches apart from the student, and you're super focused on what's going on. As an instructor, you really can't see what they're seeing. You don't know exactly where their eyes are positioned, if they're looking at the right thing. And I think it'd be cool if somebody invented like a welding hood that had like a high definition lens on the front, so I could, record a weld, because I don't have a production company, like record a weld or record what I'm doing and build that into my lesson plan and then show somebody, or, strap it on the student's hood and kind of like see what they're seeing and like do a playback. That's one of the reasons that I kind of like the Lincoln Vertex, because I can see in real time exactly what they're looking at. And yeah, it's a lot of people want to refer to it as a toy or whatever, but it's a great teaching tool only because I can see exactly what they're looking at. It's the only piece of technology that exists to where when the students like welding, and I'll use that in air quotes because they're not really welding, they're playing a video game, but when they're striking an arc and they're going down the line in that joint, I can see exactly what they're looking at. And then I can step back and I can check out their body position. And then I can grab them by the welding hood and just like move their head and say, this is what you need to be looking at. And, just kind of like dial them right into where they're supposed to be. And then they're like, I got it. And, so I split them all up and I think like 3 groups of 4 and then like one odd group of 5 and had them over there. Well, I put one group on the Vertex welder. The other 2, I showed them the traditional way. Here's an electrode, here's a stinger, here's a workpiece clamp, here's the material. Here's how you put a bead on plate. And then I let them go try it. Well, the other group, they were over on the Vertex. So they learned how to weld on the Vertex first. They actually excelled through the program a lot faster initially because they were running off the Vertex. So the Vertex was able to teach them the appropriate arc length, the appropriate work angle, because you can put on all these little cheaters. So it's like a little, like a handicap. So like when you're looking in the hood, you kind of see like what a fighter pilot would see. There's like these simulated work angle and then simulated speedometer, so it keeps your speed, it keeps your work angle, your position, everything. You get everything lined up in the green. And now what are you doing? You're building muscle memory. So I put you in a booth with a real rod, and if you can keep the thing lit, you're good to go. That's the only problem. I wish the Vertex had like an option to make the rod stick, so it'd be a little bit more realistic. Like put a magnet in that thing, just like randomly turn the magnet on and off to make it stick a little bit.
Yeah. That was my biggest. One thing I always hated about shop machines is I always hated that. What was it? That arc force switch or whatever it is. It was this little switch. You probably noticed with 7018 all the time. It basically gave you a little more punch right at the beginning, so it would stop you from sticking. I always hated that. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's the best thing ever." I always thought, you know what I mean? Because I'm used to an engine drive or whatever. When 332, that stuff's just shaking, or whatever, and and that sucker, it seemed like it was a magnet. You said magnet. That was arc force, not the arc force, but that little switch, whatever it is.
Hot start.
The hot start. Yeah. There you go. I always freaking hated that because it seemed like it was. It always was like a magnet. Boom! It would always just suck you in and stick it. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'd always shut that thing off. But different world, I guess, depending on. But yeah, that was one of the things. I guess kids do struggle with that. I guess that's why they made that switch. You know what I mean? Because you normally don't need it, but
that was
kids.
One thing. That was one thing I used to love is hot start and arc force. I'd crank my my hot start up to like 75% because it'll give you like 75% more. I like to do things a little bit more extreme, So like let's say you set it at 100, it'll give you 75% more of what you're starting at. So it'd give me 175 amps for the first half second. Yeah. So I'd light up, and then I don't have to worry about sticking anymore because. You ever try to stick a 7018 eighth-inch diameter electrode at 175 amps? It's not going to happen. And then the
hard. I mean, I've met a few people that can do it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there's some people out there that can do it. There's some overachievers out there. But then arc force, like I'd bump it up to like on a 7018. It's supposed to be like a smooth arc, but I'd bump it up to 35% because I found that would just give me a little bit more punch. And I could operate at a little bit lower amps, initially. So like a lot of my vertical, I'd do like 110 amps. But I could jack that arc force up to about 35%, and that'd give me a little bit more punch and keep me from sticking as I was going. Yeah,
it's freaking wild. Now there you go, technology again.
Oh yeah.
It's honestly, you know what I mean. It's kind of crazy how they back in the day, you know what I mean? You think people are actually, those engineers that designed an SA200 is a very good one. You know what I mean? You're like, man, they got, you start looking at it. It's like, man, these, now we got all this crazy stuff. These guys must have been, dummies that built these machines or whatever, but really they're not when you start looking into technology and stuff. And I'm like, dude, these people, I got some old Lincoln Electric. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge Lincoln fan. I'm biased almost, you know what I mean? And I got all these Lincoln books, and I try to read every once in a while. I'm actually dyslexic also, so I don't read very well, bro. And I lead. You must be able to connect with that too.
I can identify with that statement.
Yeah, are you dyslexic also?
Yeah, I wipe my ass and then take a shit. I'm like, I'm severely dyslexic.
Yeah, dude. And so anyway, long story short, I start reading these books because they're old. I have one that's supposed to be in the 40s. I got a bunch that are in the 70s, books. And I'm like, man, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is insane. Welding really hasn't changed. In 100 years, really. I mean, MIG welding, maybe, you got Pulse, you got freaking RMD, and, STT, all this crazy stuff. But still, even that, you're still watching a puddle in general. But like stick welding, TIG welding, you know what I mean? You're still the best tungsten's a red tungsten, and you're looking at the arc, and it's pretty wild. You know what I mean? It's almost humbling. You know what I mean? Welding has not changed in 100 years.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the cool thing is like all that information is there in a book. And like you said, like I'm dyslexic. I hate reading. My problem is like I'll get going and like I start seeing shit backwards, and I was like, okay, this isn't working. Then I'll go back and let's say I get through a paragraph, and then it's like, fuck, I don't remember a damn thing I just read, and I got to start back over at the top. And it's really frustrating. That's why I like video. I like podcasts. I like audiobooks. Like that. That I can get into. Like, but and I told somebody, Austin, Dr. Welds there, Austin Hargett out of I think he's out of Houston, or he's in the Texas area. But I told him, like, we always talk about metals and how to weld them. And I think I've made it to chapter 4 like 6 times in the past couple of years because I always pick it up and it's like, okay, this time I'm going to start back at chapter 1 and I'm going to work my way through the book. And like, I don't think I've ever made it past chapter 4, but I was like, they need to put it on audio. And he was like, oh, they have it on an auto, or they've got it on an Audible book. But it's not the same because there's like so many charts and figures and numbers, like it makes it hard to listen to. But yeah, like I'm right there with you. Like welding hasn't really changed a whole lot in the past 100 years. Like all the concepts are the same. Like polarity hasn't changed, amperage, hasn't changed. The flow of electrons has not changed. What we can do with those waveforms, that's changed quite a bit, to our advantage. And I like sitting down, like I want to sit down with some of the engineers and like talk to them. Like, how do you guys, if you can't weld, how do you come up with this shit to make it like to where I can use this? How do you make it close that gap? Like, what are you punching into the computer and like, what's it doing to the waveform? That's why I think this is going to be like a Lincoln infomercial. They've got that Lincoln Power Wave Manager. You can take your computer and plug it into the back of a welding machine, and you can watch that arc in real time as it's going. And that's that's been one of like the coolest tools for developing welding procedures, because I can see, like peak amperage, I can see peak current, I can see, that's the same thing. But I can see like total instantaneous energy, the joules, the amps, the volts, the arc on time. Like you can see everything. So if you're developing a welding procedure, you can pull that whole thing up and just like attach that to your report. When you're typing in all your parameters, like here's a snapshot of everything we did to make this weld successful, and here's all the testing that we did on the weld after the fact. So like, boom, now you've got something ironclad when it comes to welding.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy, dude? You can have all this technology. That's where it just blows my mind. And that's why I like welding. Like you can have all this technology. This makes me think of literally the other day. I've had a buddy. He's been a miller guy for all his life, and I'm talking, dude, he is slick. And he just broke out into the pipe industry, rig welding, where you're welding in a truck all day, and he got himself a miller, and I was giving him some crap the other day. It broke down, and he's like, man, can I borrow one of your machines? I'm like, shit, yeah, man, they need to run anyway. They're just sitting here getting rusty because haven't been welding for a while because of the injury. And he comes and grabs one of my old Lincolns, and I actually loaded we loaded up in his truck, and everything. And I was like, all right, dude. I was like, I want to know your honest opinion too when you get done with this thing, when your miller's fixed or you buy a machine or whatever. I was like, I want to know which one you like better, because I've heard those new millers, he's got a brand new miller. I heard those new millers are just like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. And I personally don't think that they're actually that amazing for like TIG welding and stuff. I've TIGged with them, and I think they don't got as much drive as the Lincoln, that pure DC arc versus that AC arc. I know it's not AC, but it's smashed down into a DC, or whatever. And so anyway, he's been welding with it for a month now, and he's and this is an old Lincoln versus a brand new Pipe Pro, you know what I mean? And he's welding with it, and he's like, he's gonna go buy a Lincoln, he said. And I'm like, are you sure? I was like, are you just trying to like make me happy or something? I'm like, he's like, dude, this thing stick welds like a million times better than that miller, than that new technology. And I'm like, really? But he's phenomenal. He's a good welder. He knows how to manipulate that arc. But then again, I've seen these guys, they can't even weld with a Lincoln. These older or these younger guys that are just starting out, it's something about that. I don't know. You probably know about that technology, but it just blows my mind that, we got all this technology, and you still, if it's, that talent, natural talent or work ethic talent, whichever it may be, you still could do it with this like old machine that barely runs, basically, All
right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by O2 Armor, the concealed nasal filtration system. These filters are designed to filter out particulate matter down to 2.5 microns. I had to do some welding certifications the other day, and before I went into the shop, I put in O2 Armor because I didn't want to breathe in all the smoke and fumes that was going to be generated while I was on site. 90% of your daily breathing occurs through your nose, so do yourself a favor and protect yourself with O2 Armor. And right now, listeners of the Arc Junkies podcast can save 10% when you use Arc Junkies 10 at the discount box at checkout when you go to O2Armor.com. Breathe it in or block it with O2 Armor. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. Check them out at everlastwelders.com today and see which machine is right for you. My all-time favorite Everlast machine is the MTS 275. I used to call this thing the Beast. It's a multi-process machine capable of stick, MIG, TIG, both AC and DC, with pulse capabilities, and it can run flux core, and it's also spool gun compatible. You can even upgrade it to a water-cooled unit as well. If you're looking for a great multi-process machine, but don't want to break the bank doing it, then check out the MTS 275 from Everlast. This machine comes in a 255 amp and a 400 amp version as well. And remember, if you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal, use Arc Junkies in the comment section at checkout and get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. We're also brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. If you fit or fabricate anything in your shop and you don't have a fixture table, it's time to upgrade. Improve speed and accuracy with all of your fabrication projects with Strong Hand Tools. Whether you're working in the garage or you're a business owner, Strong Hand has the tools and tables to make your life as a welder and fabricator easier. It's almost like a real-life cheat code. And right now, you can save 10% and get free shipping on Strong Hand tables when you go to stronghandtools.com/promo. They also have manipulators and fixturing kits as well. That's stronghandtools.com/promo.
Old machine that barely runs, basically, you know?
Yeah, that was the thing. I was talking to Nate Bowman and Rush Kane, and they went to this one school, and like they seen this like old ass Lincoln sitting in the corner, and they're like, "Can we use that?" And the instructor's like, "Yeah, we haven't ran it in years, but like go ahead." They plugged it in. He's like, "Dude, it was like the best arc you could ever hope to get." But I mean, like that's the cool thing about like those old school, you know, like transformer rectifier machines. They were so simple you can't screw it up. And that's kind of like the downfall of, and like, I do love all the technology. Don't get me wrong. I like the fact that you can buy one machine and be able to do stick, MIG, TIG, flux core all in one. But, you know, I've said it a bunch of times, like, that's great. They do all those processes pretty decent, right? But if I just bought like a DC machine, it's going to stick and TIG weld like nobody's business because it's all that machine knows how to do. That's like the old school, like Nokias. Like I never had a problem making a phone call on a Nokia, but with an iPhone, I mean, call quality, like it's not the best. And that's because it does all this other shit, but you can also make phone calls. With a DC machine, all it knows how to do is DC, you know, especially like constant current. It doesn't know how to MIG. So all you can do is stick and TIG with it. And it does those two things very, very well.
I always make fun of Miller guys, and I still love them, dude. I think that my theory has always been Miller in the shop and Lincoln in the field. But I always made fun of my buddies with Millers, you know, and we'd always, and I guess that's why I love welding, because we all can take it and we all can give each other shit. Yeah. But and we're like, literally, if one of us gets hurt, we have each other's back. But I always was like, yep, it's a microwave. It'll cook you anything you want. It'll cook fish. It'll cook shrimp. It'll warm up food. It'll make popcorn. I was like, but that Traeger out there sitting in my front yard, now that's a freaking machine right there that'll cook you the best food you'll ever eat. But it ain't gonna make popcorn. You know what I mean? Yeah. It ain't gonna make. It's not gonna do whatever. But a microwave will. But it's terrible when it's not the greatest meal you're ever gonna have in your life. You know? Yeah. Or that old that cast iron skillet you got from grandma from, when she bought it in the 40s or what have you, Oh, yeah. There's a huge difference between a Griswold skillet and a Lodge skillet. Yeah, right? Yeah. That's probably the bearded fat man coming out in me that's talking about food, Oh, dude, I love food. I just got done brining my turkey for tomorrow, so I'm gonna smo fry a turkey. Oh, yeah. Have you heard of that? Okay, so I brine a turkey no matter how I'm gonna cook it, right? So for like 24 hours prior to, I'm always throwing that thing in a brine. And my buddy Mark Winchester last year, like we talk about like smoking meats and all this stuff all the time. So he's like, "Yeah, I smoke fried a turkey," and I was like, "What the hell is smoke frying a turkey?" And he goes, "So you smoke it for like 2 to 3 hours till like you get an internal temp of like 125, and then you pull it off the smoker." And then you finish it in the deep fryer. So it's supposed to like lock in and seal like all the juices are going to be generated and flowing when you're smoking, right? Because you're cooking it slow and low. Like I'm going to cook it at like 225, 250, somewhere in there. And it's like all the juices are like they're forming, they're getting all over the place. And then you take it out and you throw it in that deep fryer and it just like seals everything up and it gets it to the internal temp. So instead of smoking it because I got a 21-pound bird and I think probably 35 to 40 minutes per pound is
that's a bit much. I want to sleep in tomorrow. It's Thanksgiving, right? So if I could start this thing at noon and be done by 4, and it's supposed to, taste fucking amazing, that's the option I'm going to go this year. So yeah, you smoke it for 2 to 3 hours, take it out, and then deep fry it for like 10 to 20 minutes, till you hit that like I'll probably pull it at like 160 degrees. And then like that last 5 degrees that you need, it'll raise up to temp as it's resting.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big smoker guy, and we're deep frying a turkey this year. I'm going to definitely be hitting you up on Thursday afternoon to see how that thing was, because I was thinking about that the other day. I know, sorry for all the hardcore welders out here that aren't badass freaking chefs like you and me, but
I think most of them are.
Yeah, better be.
You like to weld, you like to smoke meat.
I seen this meme the other day. It said, man, once you hit your 30s, you better get ready, because you're either going to have to get hardcore into World War II documentaries or learn how to smoke meat.
That's funny, because I've got a smoker, and I've got the World War II in color on my Netflix playlist.
That's where it's at these days, man. I don't even, you don't need to go party and nothing like that. Just smoke you some meat and just be a dad, basically, you know.
You want to go to the club this weekend? Nah, man, I'm smoking a brisket.
Yeah, I'm eating.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think those two things go hand in hand. Like I was talking to Sean Floatman with or Dabs Wellington. And he's a huge, he's a big green egg guy. Yeah, he loves that thing. He's like always cooking stuff on the big green eggs. We got to cutting it up about like different smoking and different types of meats and entrees and stuff that you can do on that. And it's great because my kid's birthday, I get to go. That's like the one time a year that I'll go all out. And my wife every year, she's like, I don't know why you do this to yourself, because I'll literally cook for 24 hours. I'll do. I've got like one smoker, and I'll do two 10-pound. Pork shoulders. So I'll do 20 pounds of Boston butt. I'll do like a 10 to 12 pound brisket, and then I'll do like 150 jalapeno poppers, and then I do like a smoked queso dip, and I go all out, and I'll cook for literally 24 hours. Yeah. And now I broke down and got a pellet grill, so it's now I can have a couple more beers than usual and act fall asleep or take a nap and wake up and it's not burnt, or the coals didn't go out or any of that stuff.
That's I don't know. Them pellet grills there. I guess the pellet grill probably is the same thing as this new technology.
That's the new advanced process machine.
When I got home from the hospital in Colorado, I was like, man, I want some meat. You know how hospital food, or hopefully you don't know how hospital food is. Hopefully you've just heard it, but it's not the greatest.
Not great.
And the no salt, whatever. I'm like, she's like, what do you want? And one weekend we cooked up briskets, and I got these huge briskets left over because, like I said, that accident happened right on my bachelor party. So I'm married, thank God, but we didn't actually have the reception. So I had all these briskets left over, 20-some briskets, prime grade briskets left over.
Damn.
And so we smoked them the other weekend, and she was just freaking out. She was freaking out about oh, it's not going to be good. You're the only one that can cook a brisket, and my briskets are freaking phenomenal. And she did an amazing job, and it's them freaking pellet grills. You cannot beat those things. They're freaking phenomenal. You can cook eggs on them. You can cook pizza and cake on them if you want. Saucy,
That's the funny thing. I was so dead set against getting a pellet grill for so long, because I like putting the logs on there, checking the temp, the whole process, just hanging out around a fire with, drinking a cold beer and that whole process. There's a sense of pride that goes along with it. But as you get older, you're like, you know what? I started pricing out I went to go to the store, and this is what did it for me. I went to go to the store to buy an old Brinkman, and because that's what I'd used. That's what I'd used for years. And I was like, okay, the fire pan, it rusted out. I got to go get a new one. And they're like $80 at Walmart. So and they would last down here in Florida. They last for 2 years, whether it's covered or uncovered. It's like Texas. Everything freaking rusts down here. So I go down to Walmart, can't find one. Go to Lowe's, none at Lowe's. Go to Home Depot, It's like, damn, I don't see any Brinkmans here. So finally I asked the sales guy and I was like, hey man, you got any Brinkmans? And he's like, oh yeah, they went out of business. And I was like, oh shit. So I was like, well, what do I do now? And like, I ended up getting a damn pellet grill because it's all they really had. And it's kind of the rest. Or no, I got a Master Built Pro, which was an electric. So I switched to an electric, and then when that one took a crap, I was like, all right, time to get a pellet grill. And they're great because you just like the old Ronco rotisserie chickens. You just set it and forget it. You're like, I want it 250 degrees, let it go, and I'll check on it a couple. I got a Bluetooth, so I can sit back and watch my World War II documentaries, and I can look at my Bluetooth and be like, oh yeah, I got a couple more hours on there. We're only at 100, 180. I got to get up to 200. Got a couple more hours.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. My secret weapon is mustard. I put mustard on dang near everything I smoke. Get that seasoning stuck. You
put mustard on your briskets?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. I take Dijon mustard. Just I don't know because it's fancy. Maybe I don't know. Or it sounds cool.
Great Poupon.
Take Dijon mustard, and I'm telling you, dude, lather it on all over. Use a half bottle on a big old brisket, and then just salt and pepper, dude. And I'm telling you, man, it gives it a freaking phenomenal bark, and it's just keep it simple, stupid, just like welding. You know what I mean? And that it's just, dude, everyone's like, what's the secret? And I'm like, keep it simple. You know what I mean? Them briskets, and yeah, give that a shot. I'll even put it on like a pork chop. You know what I mean? I'll put a little bit of mustard on, and I hate mustard, dude.
I don't like mustard. That's why I'm like, I don't know about that.
Exactly, and I know, dude. I feel you, but dude, it was one of my good buddies. He's a welder. He showed me that trick, and his, I'm like, man, this is good brisket. And he's like, yeah, and he's like this. I'm like, what do you do? And that's dude. It's the freaking creme de la creme of cooking or smoking. It's just lather that bad boy. Everyone calls it a binder, but something about that mustard sucks in that smoke, and it just gives it some flavor from the gods.
Got to be the vinegar or something in it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even, I think it's so nasty. I can't even I despise mustard. Actually,
I don't like it. That's why you're like, oh yeah, my secret ingredient is mustard. I'm like, pass. But I might have to do that. I was actually, so I went deep sea fishing, and I got a wahoo and some dolphin or mahi. And I was looking up, I had already cooked the wahoo, and I was looking up wahoo recipes after the fact. And this dude runs a YouTube channel down here in Florida called Deer Meat for Dinner. And he's like, okay, check this out. You lather it up with mayonnaise. And I'm like, nope. I don't know about that. And he's like, no, just bear with me. You lather it up with mayonnaise. You put your lemon pepper and stuff on there. And then you garnish it with a half of orange. And then you zest the orange on top of that. You bake it. And then right before it's done, sprinkle it with panko breadcrumbs. And then you broil it at 500 degrees. And you just sit in front of the oven, literally with the light on, looking through the glass. And once it starts to crust over, just hit stop and then walk away for a couple minutes. And I was like, okay, let me try this. I did it on the mahi. And I was like, this is the best fish I've ever had in my entire life. Who would have thought covering fish with mayonnaise and baking it was the way to go? But dude, if I ever get mahi again, I'm cooking it that exact same way.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. I don't eat fish unless it's in sushi. Usually, I mean, I'll eat it if I went to London a few years back, and that's all they would talk about is their fish and chips. You know what I mean? And I was like, golly, I was like, it ain't no different. And I haven't had a good fish besides, I guess, on the pellet smoker. It gets pretty good on there. But yeah, I always eat it on sushi. You know what I mean? Everyone thinks that they're like, you eat sushi? I'm like, oh, dude.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll eat it by the mile, dude. I'll eat freaking sushi for days, if it's good,
Yeah, sashimi?
Oh, gosh. Sashimi, mahi. Oh, man.
I'll tear it up.
My wife hooked on that stuff years back, and that stuff. Frick. I'm going to have some later on tonight.
Yeah, there you go. I'll tell you what, though. The British got it on lockdown with the fish and chips, man. We got a little fish and chip shop here where I'm at. And every once in a while, we'll pop in there, and it's actually pretty damn good, man. I love it. You put the vinegar on there, and it's it's good.
Yeah, it's crazy, that vinegar. They put it on there. They can't eat their potatoes without it.
Yeah.
Either. And I'm like, I was like, I don't know about this, but yeah, it's pretty good actually.
That's
I will give it
That's a northern thing too, and I guess it caught on with Five Guys because like if you go to Five Guys and you get their fries, like naturally cut fries, they always have malt vinegar there. And so like I've noticed, like I'm originally from northeastern Ohio, and like I'd go to I still went back like during the summers and everything when I lived down here in Florida because I got family up there, but I'd always go up just in time for the fair. And everywhere is like fresh cut fries, and they have a spray bottle of malt vinegar. And I was like, dude, it's freaking spot on, man. It's good shit.
Yeah, I've been to Five Guys. I guess I've never paid attention. I ain't been there in a few years. But,
get the malt vinegar. Throw a little bit of malt vinegar and salt on there. It's good stuff.
The sprayer, so it's not like just a douse of vinegar on one fry.
Well, at Five Guys, it's like the little shaker bottle, but like the fair, it's up there anyway. They put it in a spray bottle.
Oh yeah, nice, hell yeah.
But yeah, good stuff. Yeah. You gotta. So you said you're not much of a fish guy. Have you ever had sockeye salmon?
No, I don't recollect. I don't think so.
You gotta wait. I think it like it's like certain times of the year. I want to say like July, August, September timeframe. It's like sockeye salmon season, at least for like the people that are buying it anyway. And that stuff is it's so good. I take it and I marinate it in orange juice and Dale's. I don't know if you've ever seen like Dale's. It's kind of like a Worcestershire sauce, but I get like the low sodium version because like the original version's like packed with it. It's really salty. But it used a low sodium Dale's and 50-50 mix of that and orange juice. And you marinate it for 15-20 minutes before you throw it on the grill. Oh, it's fantastic. There's no fishy taste. I mean, it's like a good like moist type of fish. Because salmon's like naturally fatty anyway, and it's like built into the meat. It's really good. Doesn't dry out or any of that. It's amazing.
I'll have to give that a shot. My wife will definitely figure it out and get it because she's the freaking fish connoisseur.
Yeah. Throw that on the Traeger, man. That's good stuff right there. Put it on a cedar plank. Board. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the only way to do it. It's freaking good.
Yeah, I think most welders like to screw around on the smoker or the barbecue. I don't know, that's just part of it because I see a lot of pipeline welders, they got like little makeshift barbecues on the back of their truck anyway. It like slides right into the grease hitch.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I can't tell you, dude. I've seen some you see smokers as a welder. Smokers, welders build smokers. The ones on trailers. I love that. You know what I mean? I always get a kick out of looking at a rig welder's welding bed, and then if they got a barbecue, I always look at their barbecue because, dude, I've seen them. I look at some barbecues. People build them completely out of stainless, some serious orange peel, and they got this freaking $1,000 barbecue that's the size of a computer on the back of their truck, and I always got it's freaking sick. You know what I mean? I have a little barbecue too. I actually I always kept kind of fun story. I was back in western Wyoming a long time ago in a hot springs area doing a bunch of pipeline work, and we dug up. And actually, it's a really good story for you. We dug up a pipeline that was put in 1934, and I'll never forget it because it was crazy, dude. I'm like, this is insane. I'm cutting up this pipeline. And I got to looking at some of these welds on this pipeline. We'll dig it up, and the top looks good. And we got down to that bottom. I'd look at that weld on the bottom, and I'm not kidding you. 8-inch standard wall. It's 3/8 thick pipe. The wall of the pipe, and that weld was about 1.5 inches wide on every weld all the way through there. They'd have like I don't even know how a person would ever even make a weld like that. And I'm like, golly. Anyway, if engineers seen anything that was put in the ground, that thing been in there since 1934, and it's kind of crazy. I actually cut a section of that. We were in this little tiny podunk town called Thermopolis, Wyoming. And there was one Mexican restaurant and a Pizza Hut, and the Pizza Hut was shut down. And we were like, dude, we got to get a grill. And we're like, there's not even a Walmart. Like, and I'm like, well, let's go build one, And luckily, all the welders had all the makings for a barbecue. I had some expanded metal. This guy had freaking a horseshoe. This guy had a a 90 for a chimney. It was kind of funny. So we built a barbecue right at the end of the day. Like everyone and we built this pretty sick little barbecue. And but I actually made it out of that pipeline that was in the ground because it was junk. Once you pull up an anomaly dig, you ain't going to use it except for maybe fence or something, like junk that really isn't too, it doesn't matter too much because you're not going to ever put it back into service or pressure. And we got that pipe and I cooked it with, my propane torch and, everyone's like, you're crazy. You know what I mean? That thing probably has radioactive freaking rays in it from all the oil that's gone through it. And I don't know. It was kind of cool. I still got it sitting next to my shop. It's rusting right now, but I still got it. 1934, that pipeline was put in the ground. It was crazy.
Damn. Yeah, they welded different back in the day. I actually did a distillery tour with Jimmy McKnight, the original host of the Arc Junkies podcast, up in Kentucky. We went to this place called Castle and Key, and there's actually a documentary on this distillery on Netflix, or not Netflix. It was Hulu. And so you go in there and you get to tour the facility, and like they took us on this tour, and it was the dude that gave us the tour was like the great grandson of like this the whiskey connoisseur or whatever. He came out with the original recipe for like Buffalo Trace and Blanton's E.H. Taylor. He's a direct descendant of E.H. Taylor, and so it was really cool. Like he's a young kid and everything, but like he took us on this tour and we got to see like how they distill everything, where they bring the grains in, how they mix it, how they ferment it, all the, when they put the yeast in and all that stuff. But like Jimmy and I were walking around this place and we're looking at like all the old welds from like way back in the day. And they're just like these big ass weaves on everything. And I mean, they were like tight weaves, but I mean, that's how they welded pipe back in the day. And I was like, damn, like you'd never get away with that nowadays. But I mean, it's very cool to see that like it's still in service. Like this, it's literally a castle, like this building, because that's how they built it back then. But like these welds from the 1930s, they're still hauling product, and some of these lines are still in service, and they've got like an inch and a quarter weave all the way around this 8-inch pipe.
Did it look like a TIG weld kind of?
No, it looked like a stick weld.
Yeah, but did it usually? So I've worked in gas plants. You'll see that call them a lot of old timers will call it a butterfly weave, and it's like a stitch weld. They'll weld a section, stop, and they'll just keep overlapping, and it's kind of like a crooked TIG weld usually. That's what I've seen like in gas plants, and it's if you do it right. I mean, from my recollection of what I've seen, like they're freaking phenomenally beautiful. Actually, they call them a butterfly weave.
Yeah, they look pretty good. I got photos of them because I was like, the guy's like explaining the whole process and everything, and Jimmy and I were over there like, I'm zooming in with my phone. I'm like, I got to get a picture of this shit, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing? Because we're the only two people on the tour. This is pretty cool.
Hashtag what welders see in public.
Yeah, hashtag weld nerds.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's really cool.
It's pretty cool. And then I guess so my buddy Nate Bowman, when he was up in Cleveland, he picked up like an old school Lincoln machine. I can't remember. I want to say it was from like the 1940s or something like that. But he collects a lot of the like old timey welding machines and everything. And he took it down to Lincoln and got it all polished up and cleaned up and everything. And I think that's the place you go if you need logos and everything from 1940s and all that stuff. But it's really cool to see like the history of welding, whether it's like welds, like you said, like digging up an old pipeline or, checking out an old building or like going to some of these, places that sell old antique equipment and stuff like that. It's kind of really, cool to see how far that stuff's come.
Yeah. Yeah. No, welders are, I don't know if, that Nate Bowman, has he worked a lot in North Dakota and like this in Wyoming area?
So he's weld scientist on Instagram, but he works for I think a company called Central Maintenance and Welding or Central Maintenance Welding Supply. And so he's all over like Washington, Oregon, like that type of area. They might come into where you're at.
Oh yeah. I worked with a Nate Bowman, but I don't know tall freaking dark haired fella.
Yeah.
But
Well, not tall. He's dark haired, kind of
oh, yeah.
lean, bunch of tattoos.
Well, anyone's tall for me, especially now when I'm in a wheelchair. But even before, I'm only 5'7", so frick, a middle-aged housewife is tall to me.
Yeah, he's probably, I'd say he's about 5'7", 5'8". But
Oh, yeah.
he's
Nice.
definitely, he's a weld nerd, man. He's a weld nerd from way back.
Hell yeah.
He's big
Good.
into it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's good, man.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. We just had him down at the school right before I left. They came down. Him and Rush Kane came down. What was it? Late July, and they got this company called Weld Labs, and they come to different welding schools and they help skill up the welding instructors or the students, or like expose them to new technology and all that stuff. So it was pretty cool. They came out to our school for a week, and they did 2 classes during the day and 2 classes in the evening. It was pretty neat. They covered STT. We did a little bit of pulse welding. We did some macro etches, and it was a good week.
Yeah, dude, that's I wish I would have had some of that stuff in high school. You know what I mean? Like, and it's crazy. I'm so I'm almost jealous of kids these days. It's either mainly probably because Wyoming's very rural and there isn't very many people around to help out. But that's freaking phenomenal that those guys do that kind of stuff for kids. That's one of my biggest passions is helping out, people that don't have it or can't get it or are young and don't know. That's amazing that they do stuff like that. Cause I know, like, I didn't have very many mentors, you know what I mean? Through my teenage years of welding, and then the mentors that I did, God blessed me with them. And the ones that I did have, they were just them old school pipeliner guys. They didn't know much about, TIG welding or this, the next step of welding. They just knew, short circuit MIG, pulse and spray, and then your vessel, your dual shield, and your stick welding. So that's cool that they'll do that stuff for them kids. That's really nice,
Yeah, and I mean that's the great thing about social media too, because like no matter where you're at, you get a lot of kids from different welding programs that they don't have access to all this cool crazy technology. But you know what? Every kid that I've seen, they've got a freaking cell phone, so they can pull up a cell phone and they can learn about RMD and STT and all these advanced processes. And if they get exposed to it, and as well as I do, man, like show me. And I can learn it. Like, let me touch it or let me hold it, and I can master it. And that's the cool thing, So they get exposure via, social media or YouTube, and then they get into that industry, and they're like, okay, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Give me that torch, and then they can start performing.
Yeah, changing kids' lives, changing people's lives, changing America, right there. I mean, shoot, I know some, if that would have been exposed to some people, you know what I mean, that might actually change their life, versus, just struggling with it. If you got a guy that's doing that, showing the lifestyle or what have you, that's pretty powerful right there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did that last winter. I actually went on a tour with Western Welding Academy. Actually, we went to like 28 states across America, and we welded with schools. My first week, we loaded up my welding truck, my old second gen, and we put on 5,500 miles in 5 days. Going to these schools. It was like literally insane. And it was pretty cool to see, you know what I mean? Obviously you're going to get the kids that are just in welding class because, whatever, but you might get those kids that are just in welding class because they think it's cool, but they're not really sure about life, and that they do that, that you can do that stuff. It's phenomenal. It's pretty powerful, to see these kids, their eyes light up, they, you know what I mean? Just like me, when I first seen my first welding truck, you know what I mean? I was welding in the shop, and then I see them lined up outside, that's, oh man, welding trucks and welding. I love it. You know what I mean? So, and that's just my little tiny world of welding. There's so much more out there than what I know about welding, and that's cool. It starts with the kids, you know what I mean? They're our future. I mean, everyone says that, but it's true,
Oh, definitely 100%. And you never know, like as a welder, or as any, tradesperson, any skilled tradesperson, the impact you're having on somebody else's life. Because, like, there was a rig welder that had an impact on your life. You saw that. Like my buddy Scott Witkowski, he runs Republic Testing Labs down there in Houston, Texas. Same thing. Like, he was in high school and he saw all the, like, he'd go to the gas station. He'd seen all these badass rig welders. They show up and he's like, man, they would pull up to the gas pump and, like, they'd step out of the truck and their jeans are starched and their shirts are starched. I mean, like, people look up to you and you have no idea the impact that you're having on somebody. Like, somebody sees you at the gas station, somebody sees you at the grocery store, they're like, oh shit, that's a welder. Like, I want to, like, I've had, I've talked to people that are like, oh yeah, I seen this rig welder, and like my students are like, I seen a rig welder at the gas station the other day, and like I ran over there and started talking to him, and I was like, dude, leave that man alone. But I mean, they're like so excited to see people that are in the industry that they're getting into. They've got a lot of questions. They're like, hey, how do I get into this? How did you break out? What are you doing now? Like, why do you have this on your truck? And I mean, that's the cool thing, is passing it down to the next generation, because whether we realize it or not, we are a resource for the current generation, a resource that we never had when we were growing up. It was always looked down upon. Like, you don't, like, stay in school, get good grades, go to college, because you don't want to be some dumb welder. And it's like, going back to that, because I said we'd come back to it. Like my buddy Padraig Bean, he always gives me shit because I say, nah, I'm just a dumb welder. And he gets mad at me for saying that, which I understand that. But, like, I like saying I'm just a dumb welder, because that's like the stereotypical, that's how society sees welders and stuff. But they don't understand how much we actually know, and they could never do what we do. So anytime I say, what do I know? I'm just a dumb welder. It's like a slap in the face to everybody that doesn't respect what we do.
Yeah. And I actually the same, like I said, I say it too. I do it, more of a, try to check myself, because like I said, I'm a very competitive person, or at least I try to be, even though sometimes I'm not. I do it to check myself, to humble myself a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'm just a dumb welder. Don't listen to everything I say, because it probably ain't right, but because I'm just a dumb welder, just to keep myself in check and humble myself to where, you know what I mean? Because I know you've been there, probably any welder's done it. You pass a few x-rays and you know what I mean? You freaking can't even walk in a doorway because your head's so big,
head's so damn big.
You get humbled, you either get humbled by an old man or you get humbled by the x-ray crew or what have you, you know what I mean? And then you start looking at life a little different. But I usually do that, keep myself in check quite a lot, it's because I don't want to be that freaking, I've been around them freaking really, really bad welders that are arrogant or what have you. And I'm like, I see that guy in that welding truck, I want to be him, but I also don't want to be that guy coming out of that welding truck that's arrogant either, Yeah. That'll kill your career. I've seen that so many times. I've hired tons of welders, and that'll that arrogance, it'll kill you. It'll kill your career faster than anything, any failures, bad welds, what x-rays missed, than anything. It's an ego.
Oh yeah. And that's one thing we have, because like everybody thinks they're God's gift of welding. Like, whatever you throw down, you want to be the best. And I mean, it's a mentality, and it's a good mentality to have, because you're constantly forcing yourself to be the best out there. But like I tell, the students that I've taught in the industry, I tell people that are like coming up in the industry, or, people that reach out to me via DMs, don't be cocky, because you're one bad weld away from losing your job. You're only as good as your last weld. Be confident and be humble in your abilities, and you'll go far in this industry. But if you're cocky, people are going to sense that on day one, and they're going to push you until you fuck up. And when you fuck up, you're going to be gone.
Yep, they'll never forget, especially you and me, you'll never forget a bad weld. But they'll really never forget a bad weld and an attitude.
Yeah.
That'll freaking ruin you, you know what I mean? And it's terrible, because some of these welders, you know what I mean, out there, they don't understand that, I didn't understand it either until recently, I guess. You're right. These people look up to you. You know what I mean? So, these welders hopping out of a truck, these iron workers with their freaking arms the size of Texas, whatever. You know what I mean? They come into half drunk with freaking welding beanie on. You know what I mean? Freaking cussing at the gas station lady, whatever. You know what I mean? Some, that stuff. Then, kids will be like, oh, that's how I need to be. You know what I mean? That's cool. That guy's cool. I want to be cool like him, and I don't even want to make this about a life lesson, you know what I mean? But it really matters. You know what I mean? How you portray yourself out there, even when you don't think that the company man's watching or the job's over, you know what I mean? It freaking, you know what I mean? Shoot, that stuff I remember a long time ago, I was working in Greeley, Colorado. I didn't know it, but I was talking a little bit of trash about one of my inspectors on the job. He was in my butt, and come to find out, I was talking trash to this guy. Didn't even know it, but he was the foreman for the gas plant we were working at. Literally could, he didn't have much of over the construction what was said, but he really did though too. He could make your life hell, and come to find out, long way down the road, I don't know. We actually became friends, but when I seen him jump up on a tailgate the next morning, you know what I mean? This big badass welder really got real small all of a sudden, you know what I mean? And kind of hid.
Bad gas travels fast in a small town.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, regardless of where you're at in the welding industry, like, welding it's a massive industry. It's freaking huge when you think about it, but it's a very small, tight-knit community. Your reputation is going to precede you, and so is your attitude. So Stay humble and, be careful what you say in front of people that you really don't know, because word gets around quick.
Yeah.
Always like show up, have a good attitude, give 100%, and you'll go far. But if you get in there and you start talking smack and you think you're God's gift to welding and everything, and you burn a couple bridges, you might have to leave the state to find some work.
Yep. Yeah, that's one thing everyone asks me. They're like, what's the one tip you could give a guy starting? It's like, be humble. Everything else will freaking, if you love welding, then everything else will fall into place, but be humble. You know what I mean? Take the criticism and ask why, you know what I mean? Because being humble is that's what I've always tried to be humble my whole career most of the time, and except when you're talking to, company men at the bar, you know what I mean? That you don't know the company men, but be humble. It's, but I think I think that's in everything, you know what I mean? These wrestlers and stuff out there, they might, like what was it? McGregor, he was a bad buck, you know what I mean? McGregor was until he wasn't, you know what I mean? And, I even see it in them guys, you know what I mean? You get humble, and, if you're humble, I think it speaks to the audience a lot better too,
Oh yeah. Yeah. McGregor had, he's got a habit of starting shit, but I mean, like, he can back it up. But I mean, like, no matter how big you are, no matter how bad you are, there's somebody out there that's bigger and badder. You're never going to be the baddest sumbitch on the block. There's always somebody else that wants it just a little bit more.
Yeah. When I was a young kid, I was getting trashed on by this welder I worked with. He was lack of a better word, he was a dickhead. He was just trashing on me, and I remember this one guy. He never would say very much, you know what I mean. He was a good welder too, you know what I mean. He didn't really care, you know what I mean, about life. I don't know. He just was very humble, very quiet, and he freaking lost it on this old welder, and and I'll never forget it. That's exactly, in a plethora of other words, he did tell him at the end, he's like, there, you know what I mean? You might be better than this kid. He's like, but you're, there's always someone better than you. And that's me. And he told, he was talking about himself. I am better than you. So shut up. And it shut him up right away. It was a freaking crazy experience. And I'll never forget that, you know what I mean? I'm like, yep, that's the truth. You know what I mean? And no matter how bad you are, there always is someone better. Even when you're the best, there's someone coming up on you that's going to proceed, go, farther than you if you don't watch it, Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, that's one thing they told us in the military all the time. Like, while you're sleeping, your enemy is training, and when you wake up, he will kill you. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you sit back and you rest on your laurels and you go to sleep, somebody out there is training and, you know, putting in the extra effort to go further. And when you wake up, they're going to surpass you. So always be humble. Never try to be the baddest person out there, you know, because somebody out there they want it just a little bit more than you do. And they're going to put in the extra work.
Yep. And you can't, there's no remedy for hard work either, you know, and that's why you know what I mean? Even if you got natural talent, that there ain't no remedy for hard work, you know. That's because I was never a good welder, you know. I always sucked at it, really, compared to like some of these natural talented freaking guys. So I had to work harder than them, you know. I had to work more hours, you know. One thing I also did want to say, I was going to say it earlier, is thank you for your service, man. I was going to say that earlier, but we were in the middle of something. So thank you for your service, dude.
Thanks for your support, man. It was my pleasure. It was I had a lot of fun.
Good.
But not enough fun to stay in for another 4 years.
Dude, it takes, I mean, dude, that's why I think we should thank all our service members, you know what I mean? But, cause I mean, I got some good friends, Marines, Army, man, some of the things you guys have to deal with, I'm like, man, I don't know, me being the humble guy that I try to be, I'd freaking, you know what I mean? I don't know if I could do it. You know what I mean? That's some freaking man shit right there. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy that, you know, anywhere from a veteran to wounded veterans and blue, you know, all that stuff out there. It's freaking, you know, that's why I was like, everyone I meet, I'm like, thank you for your service, you know, cause, and to mean it, you know what I mean? Cause it's freaking, it's hard, you know, I mean, I couldn't tell you how hard it is, but I couldn't imagine how hard it is to do that, you know?
I appreciate it. It was, it's got its ups and downs. It's just like anything else in life.
Yeah.
But, it was my pleasure and my honor, man. I really appreciate that.
Good. What branch were you in, if you don't mind me asking?
Marine Corps.
Nice. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm always the odd man out, you know, like whenever they're like, you know, like, where's, you know, like the other night I was at the Masons Lodge, they did something and they were like, you know, like state your because like it's November's like National Veterans Month. So like, you know, state your branch and, you know, when you served and, you know, all that stuff. And like, I was the only Marine in the room once again, like we're the smallest force with the biggest impact. So, I mean, it's funny because like, you don't find a whole lot of Marines that aren't cocky and, you know, that aren't humble or that are humble. You know, they're like Marines have a big attitude and rightly so, because I mean, like it's pretty difficult. I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. we're the best. Like, but you gotta stay humble too.
Yeah. No, my best friend, one of my best friends, he's a welder. Yeah, and he's a little cocky, and he's a Marine. He was actually over in Afghanistan. He got wounded and stuff. He's a Purple Heart or whatever. Marine. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. You know, I would never have thought that. You know what I mean? But now that you say that, you know what I mean? Because they're so the odd man out, or but that's the unique thing about Marines is there ain't a lot of them. You know what I mean? And they're phenomenal training and stuff like that. And I would never expected that you was a Marine, I suppose, you know, just because of how quiet, you know, you seem kind of your demeanor, you know, so.
Yeah, I've dialed up back quite a bit, especially when I got into education. Like I fit right in with the rest of the ironworkers because I was like, all right, this is a rowdy bunch. These are my people. And then I got into education. I was like, okay, I got to dial this shit way back. Everybody's bringing their feelings to school. I don't know how to handle this.
Yeah, you're gonna have to self-identify as something else now, you know.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but I mean, I had a lot of fun, and the cool thing was, like, I was a welder in the Marine Corps, so like I started off welding in high school, and then when I joined the Marines, I was able to pick two jobs, and my recruiter's like, I'll guarantee you one of the two jobs. So I picked combat engineer or a welder, and the combat engineer billet was all full, so I got to go in as a welder, and you know, I got to hone that craft for a little bit, got to do 2 tours overseas and, learn, weld in a sandbox. As if welding wasn't hot enough, let's go weld in a freaking desert, 130 degrees outside, in full cami gear and like, rifle slung around your back and, all that happy horse shit. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I probably wouldn't put it on my top 10 destinations, but you make the most out of it. It's the same thing that I tell people all the time. Like, you never remember the great times you have with people. like on a job site, you remember all the shitty situations and you just made the best out of it. And those made the best memories.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy, man. That's cool, man. My buddy would tell me some of the stories from over there. I didn't know there was a place on this planet that was 130, 140 degrees. I'm like, but he told me it wasn't that bad because it was super. I mean, it was terrible, honestly, but
Yeah.
I'm sure. But he said the heat wasn't that bad because it was so dry. He's like, I'd rather be in a 130 degree desert versus 100 degree in Louisiana or down in the swamps. He's like, it's because it's so dry. It's probably about like Wyoming. Everyone's like, oh, what's negative 30 degrees? How do you even like do that? And I'm like, man, once you hit zero, it's all the same. It's all
cold. There's people used to tell me that all the time. It was like, yeah, it's 130 degrees over there. And they're like, yeah, but it's a dry heat. And I was like, okay, go down to the beach and throw a handful of sand in your face and then spray it off with a blow dryer. It's still 130 degrees. It's freaking hot. But yeah, it was manageable.
Yeah.
But I know cold, like my buddy Max from the Canadian Welding Bureau podcast, he invited me up to, they do a thing called Can Weld. So they have FabTech Canada, I think, on odd years. No, they have FabTech Canada on even years, and then they do Can Weld on the odd years. So he invited me up to Can Weld this year in October. So I was like, what's the temperature in October? And he's like, oh, it's like 40 C. And I was like, yeah, you're gonna have to convert that for me, man. I'd have to look it up now. But he's like, oh yeah, it's like negative something in Fahrenheit. And I was like, oh shit, like I'll go, but like it's gonna be pretty chilly up there. So I'm looking forward to that trip. But again, like once you get below zero, it's freaking cold out. That's all there is to it.
Yep. Yeah. Only thing that'll change is that wind. We got wind here in Wyoming, and once that wind starts rolling in, you're freaking done, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're up there on the flats and everything, right? So it's just like there's nothing blocking it.
Yep, there ain't nothing. And there's other spots in Wyoming that are worse, but it definitely, I mean, it ain't nothing to have a 30 or 40 degree day with 50 degree wind or 50 mile an hour winds. You know what I mean? Usually when it gets super cold, like below zero, it stops blowing. Fun fact. I'd rather have below zero than like 20 degrees and 30 mile an hour winds. It's freaking ridiculous. Yeah. It just gets into you faster.
Oh yeah, I was hanging out today, and like it was. I walked outside and I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. Then I walked in the house and I was like, damn, it's freezing in here. And I went and checked the thermostat, and we usually keep the house, like, especially during the summer, I'll drop it down to like 68. But like the thermostat, it said 72. And I was like, damn, it's like freaking cold. And I had to run up to the store and check the temp of my car and everything. It was 76. And I got the heater on. And I was like, I'm freezing. Like I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops. Like that's pretty much standard, Florida issued freaking attire year round. And I was like, man, this is, for some reason, today is like colder than any other freaking day.
Huh.
But
yeah.
I love the cold weather because we don't get it much down here. So like when it starts dropping below 80, it's like, all right, man, it's time for like campfires and, s'mores and all that. Happy, we get 2 or 3 days, and it's like, oh man, this is kind of nice. And then it's like, boom, back to 100 degrees, 100% humidity.
Yeah. Shoot, I was on the porch chilling, watching the sunset come up, and it was like 30 some degrees, and it felt warm out there because there's no wind. It was below zero last week, and I was like, man, what's the temp out? And it's like 35 or 40 degrees or whatever early in the morning. I'm like, golly, a heat wave, coming through here. But yeah, your body will acclimate to that stuff.
Yeah, that's what people say. Like when especially like down here in Florida, or like the states with all the heat and stuff. It's like, you get used to it. No, you don't get used to it. I've been down here since 1989. You never get used to the heat. You get somewhat acclimated. I mean, like I think you're like, yeah, it's freaking hot out. But like you go outside and it's like, this sucks. I need air conditioning and water like right now. You never get used to it. You just kind of, I don't know. I think your tolerance just kind of grows a little bit more.
Yeah. You want to know something crazy? It's getting better now, but from the accident, when you get paralyzed as high up as me, my body doesn't like regulate its temperature very well. So like hot weather, I'll start getting a fever, and cold weather, I'll start dropping, and I can't feel temperatures as much. Like I can feel when it's nice out. That's, but I like say, so like this summer, I was like, I couldn't differentiate from like a 90-degree day or like a 110-degree day. It was, pretty wild, you know, and I can't sweat, being paralyzed. Like I can't sweat. But I'm getting, that's another thing. People ask me, they're like, oh, you're getting, how's your recovery going? Like, where are you at? You know, is there going to be, you know, what's the hope or whatever? But recently I just, started sweating again. So it's kind of weird. For 3 months, I could not sweat. Like I'd go sit outside because my body, tricks itself. And I've kind of learned how to like mentally, swap it in my head, temperature. But like, I'll be like, it was like 90 degrees outside and I'd literally go outside and I'd be cold in a hoodie. Cause my body, anyway, it's crazy, your brain, the way it'll play tricks on you. But I've been slowly getting over it, but I couldn't differentiate like heat. Like it was just, I was always cold, you know, and like a shower, like now, it's kind of funny. I noticed when stuff coming back, I never would feel temperature in my legs. And now I got like a wand, you know, shower. And I can feel, you know, from here up, temperature. Before I could feel nothing, you know, and I'd spray my legs and all of a sudden I knew I had like pretty hot water because I like a hot shower, you know. I sprayed that and I was, you know, doing, you know, washing my legs and stuff, and I started washing off the soap and I'm like, what the heck? It felt cold. So my water temperature now, hot water on my legs, feels cold. And then I messed around with cold water and it started like, I kind of had lukewarm water, started feeling like it was the opposite way. Like I don't know. It's kind of crazy the way your body will your mind will play tricks on you. But I guess to answer that question a little more, even like that's a good thing, you know. If you got something, you can work with it. If you don't got anything, you ain't got nothing to work with, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a plus that you're getting different sensations and feedback, and like neurological stuff is like things are happening, things that weren't going on a couple of months ago. I mean, like you're making progression. So instead of going from like B to C, hopefully you're, you know, on the track from going C to E or C to D and then D to E.
Yep. Amen, dude. That's the plan. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Cause when I first got injured, there was nothing but, it's called neurological, like a ghost. They call it ghost pain. I think it's called, right?
Ghost pains.
Yeah. And so I get like ghost, not
or phantom
pain,
pains,
but like
phantom.
So I get like phantom feeling in my legs, but I didn't have nothing at first. For the first week, I had absolutely no feeling from the chest down, nothing, which was, you know, that's when you're like, golly, you know what I mean? You're like, and it's wild. And you know, you can't even, mentally, you like not even prepare yourself, but, understand what's going on. And, yeah, that's how that stuff goes, you know, with, healing and stuff like that. It takes time, man. And, that's another, I guess I forget about the little wins. I always tell people it's little wins every single day, you know, literally by the hour, I guess, but little wins. I forget about little stuff like that. You know, it's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? You never think in a million years I'd spray myself on the leg with hot water and it'd feel literally perfectly feel like you're spraying, you know, like, stream water from like the mountains on your leg. It's cold, you know?
Damn.
So,
yeah, man, I couldn't imagine, but like I said, you've got a hell of a freaking mindset, and it's inspiring and motivational as hell to see, you know, like you just bounce back and like you didn't skip a beat with your mentality, your tenacity, your sense of humor, you know, your drive, you know, like everything. It's been really cool to watch the progression. I mean, like I wish it would never happen to you, but I mean, like I think you're dealing with it better than most.
Yeah, I'm glad that, and that's my power. I think, you know, God gave me. I actually just recently, I can't really get too detailed with it, but I went through some business ventures that really hurt me deep down, and I was actually, I don't tell a lot of people this, but I was like, man, Danny, you know, what are you gonna do? Go back to rig welding? You know what I mean? Like, that's, you know, everyone thinks it's the greatest thing, but like, that's not for you. Like, what are you going to do next? You know, what's your next battle? What's your next business you're going to start? And, you know, and I was beating myself up. And so I actually prayed to God one night and I was like, you know, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like, I love rig welding, like, and I love welding. What's my next challenge, God, you know? And, that was a month before the accident, you know, and I don't think he put me in this chair, but I think that that's my new challenge. You know, I think that was what, maybe not, his exact plan, but yeah, I think this is my next new challenge, and so I discovered like about a month into my recovery, I started thinking about that, and I'm like, because I don't know, I got a very good memory in some aspects, and I'm like, yep, that's you know what I mean. This is what's next, so that's why I've been posting a lot more, and and that's why I guess that's why I try to stay happy, because I think that's the power that I didn't know I had, and staying positive for people, and it's contagious, you know what I mean? So
no, it definitely is. I mean, keep doing what you're doing, because you're inspiring the shit out of a lot of people, including myself, and you're motivating people to get stuff done. And I mean, it's honestly, I mean, like it's a shitty hand to fucking have to play, but I mean, like, you're making the most out of it. You're making the best out of it. And you're, like I said, you're inspiring and motivating other people to say, hey, you know what? If Danny can get out there and do it, why can't I?
Yep. If an old burned out, washed out welder with no hands can do it again, you guarantee that freaking, you know what I mean? Anyone that's learning a new trade, TIG weld and stick welding, you damn right. You guys got no excuses if this old fat man can do it again in a wheelchair,
No, man, you're doing great. Keep it up, man.
Hell yeah. Appreciate it.
Well, hell, man, it's been great having you on. I mean, like, go ahead, plug your social medias and everything. Let people know where they can find you before we get out of here. If you still got your GoFundMe up and running, go ahead and plug that. I can put everything in the show notes, so people will just be able to, click on everything.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, man, like I said, Jason, I appreciate you having me on here. Like I said, dude, I wanted to do this at the end. Thank you for your services. And this has been awesome, dude. I love it when I always get a little tickle in my heart when I get to be on your podcast. I get all excited. My day went super slow, and I want to thank you for letting me be on here, dude. And like I said, if you guys want to follow my story, or maybe find out, some tips and tricks in welding, or disabilities and stuff like that, I got an Instagram channel, the Jack_Daniels, and then the Real Danny Keiderling TikTok. I have a YouTube channel out there. You can just search my name, and then obviously if you guys want to help support my fund and then future funds for injured welders, I'm going to be starting up a nonprofit here in the next year. I have a GoFundMe. So if you guys want to be part of that, if you guys want to help out, and if you just want to come hang out with me on the cyber world on your cell phone, give me a follow, give me a like, and I appreciate everything you guys do, and I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh, man, thanks for taking time out of your day to come out here and chat with us and kind of share your experience. I mean, I know it takes a lot to do that, and like I said, you've got a positive mindset, and yeah, I mean, you're doing a hell of a job, man. Like I said, keep it up. You're doing freaking amazing. You inspire the shit out of me. Every time I open my phone and I see you out there doing something, taking it to the next level, or doing something you couldn't do last week, it's fucking awesome to see that. And like I said, when I seen what happened, I was blown away. I was like, damn, like, if that can happen to Danny, that can happen to anybody. And then to see how you've dealt with it, it's been inspiring as hell.
Thank you, man.
Definitely. Thanks again for coming out on the show.
Yes, sir, man. Keep in touch.
You as well. All right, ladies and gents, that is all I have for today's episode. All of the links for Danny's social medias, as well as his GoFundMe link, are going to be down in the show notes. Be sure to tune in this Wednesday for a bonus episode of Weld Wednesdays with AWS, where I chat with Jeremy Condry from Southern Weld Company. I was going to drop that last week, but completely forgot about the upcoming holidays, so I rescheduled it for this week. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.